Music reimagined from local acts and homegrown talent. This is Unplugged.
We are Mapua Radio Cardinal, Red and Gold on air. We're live now for another edition of Unplugged at home with me, Julian. For the first time ever, we have an invited guest that is not from Mapua. Give it up for Carla. Hi, Carla.
Thank you. Hi, guys.
How are you? I like your makeup, by the way. It's so unique.
Thank you so much. Hello. Good evening, everyone. My name's Carla. I go by Art of Bodybending for my artist name.
Okay, saan nanggaling yung Art of Bodybending? Kasi usually that pseudonym has a history behind it. So can you elaborate on your music and on your artistry and how you came up with that name?
Well, number one, contortionist model ako. I also do dance performances with my contortions. And number two, mahilig ako sa Avatar, The Last Airbender. And I love the concept of how you become a bender when you can control and maneuver something at your will. And for me, that thing that I can control and extend the power of is my body. Since I do a lot of movement art, I do a lot of vocal art, and I love to stretch the limits of my mind and my body using different mediums.
Okay. So can you describe your genre? Kasi I had the pleasure of listening to your music on Spotify. You have 5 songs out, if I'm not mistaken. So just for our listeners' benefit, before we play the music later on the show, can you describe your genre and how you decided to pursue that track on your career?
Well, wala akong genre in mind when I made those songs. It was really a melting pot of all of my influences. But when people describe what category I fall into as an artist, they say that I'm avant-garde. And avant-garde means something untested, something unusual, and avant-garde means advanced garde, which means an artist is breaking forward and taking the risk to explore and experiment on things that people have not tried yet. So that's what I'm pushing forward. That's why I look like this. That's why I have all sorts of outrageous performances. And I guess you could say that my sound is avant-garde pop with elements of jazz, soul, bossa nova, and funk.
Okay, you mentioned your influences earlier. So can you enumerate your influences when it comes to your artistry and your music? Kasi I'm really intrigued Kasi yun nga, you mentioned a lot of genres. So I wanna know about kung sino yung pinagkukuhanan mo na inspiration on your art. Kasi you're so unique. You're actually one of those artists na I came upon na I can fully distinguish you from a crowd of musicians. So can
wow.
How sino yung influences mo on developing your art of bodybending?
Well, I never was the kind of person who really followed a certain artist. Most of my influences are from fine art, yung mga paintings from the Renaissance, from the Baroque period. And that's what I use in my imagery and the way that I move my body. And when it comes to music, everything I like is from the last century. It's everything I listen to is jazz and swing from the 20s and 30s. The more contemporary artists that I really love are Michael Jackson, James Brown, Prince. I love how Michael Jackson had a different story, a different costume, a different choreography for each of his videos. And that's what really inspired me to, create something very unique and very iconic for every piece that I create.
Oh, that makes sense now. Kasi when I browse through your catalog, parang each song has a different narrative. Each song has a different feeling. So I think, that resonated with a lot of artists before. Prince was a visual artist. Michael Jackson was a visual artist. So I can see that now. I'm given the clarity that I needed. You're a songwriter, correct? So when I again listen to your songs, there was sort of a sense of narrative that's really personal in some sense. Can you describe the songwriting process?
It just comes at me out of nowhere. Like I could be eating, I could be taking a bath, and then like it's just gonna start in my head, and then I have to stop whatever I'm doing so I can write it down. Like I'm the type of person who writes several songs. Like I have like notebooks this thick full of songs because like my emotions are very alive like within me, and I'm always entertaining them. I'm always thinking about how I feel and what I'm going through, and like when you give it that much care and attention, it really does like blossom or evolve into something, something beautiful that you can share with the world.
Okay, so you're the type of artist. What type of songwriter are you? Do you finish one song in one sitting, or do you take breaks in between? Because I know a lot of artists who, kapag they're so inspired, they tend to write one song in one sitting. Some of artists naman I know take breaks since it's so overwhelming and so personal in some sense that it gets so emotional for them. They just need to take a break. So what are you in between those two?
I've never ever taken a break when writing a song. Parang sinasapian lang ako ng malikhaing espiritu, and I just write. Then like before I know it, I have a song. Then I start working on the the sound, the audio from then.
So you start with lyrics before melody.
Definitely. Like for me, my songs are all about the story behind it. So whatever sound I put there, whatever style I sing it in, it should always illustrate the story, which is the heart of everything.
So it's more about the words than the music. So it's more of like a poetic what's the word? Poetic way of writing a song. So you focus more on the words than the melody. Okay. So do you know how to play instruments? Piano, guitar, anything?
I play a little bit. Like I used to play piano. Like I'm working on guitar right now, but I'd rather entrust it to my friends who are sessionists because they're so much better than me. Like they've been playing for a very, very long time. So I just direct them. I tell them that, okay, this is how I want it to sound, and they deliver.
So you have frequent collaborators with your music. So you have the music behind the music.
Yes, I do.
The person behind the music. Okay.
Yes.
So how did you meet them? Did you select them from a pool of artists, or are you friends with them? So tell me more about that.
I met them when they were performing in a bar, and I was just dancing and enjoying, and this makes me miss like gig culture, because in bars you're also close to each other. It's not like the red carpet where you're isolated from the performers. Like they could be finished with one set and they could be drinking right beside you after their set, and that's how I met them, because they would perform in a lot of the places that I would hang around. Then we ended up talking. We ended up becoming friends, and then the time came for me to record my music, and then I went to them. And it was really a perfect match because
that's what I like about gig culture here in the Philippines. It's so intimate. The crowd is so small, but you have that connection with the artist. Na nawawala yung stigma na pag artist siya, they're on a pedestal, like they're above the audience. That stigma is broken down, and mas nabubuo yung relationship between the fans or the audience and the artist. So you mentioned gigs, right? So yung like one artist that you have seen live that you're captivated the most?
La Crema.
I haven't. Are they a band? Him or her?
Yes, La Crema is a band made of 5 amazing instrumentalists, and every gig that they do it in dresses, and they do it in makeup, and they're prettier and sexier than I'll ever be. And they're also some of the best instrumentalists in the entire gig scene. I love them so much.
So I think that most of the gigs that you go to are more on post-rock, world music. So more instrumentals?
Poblacion. Kahit ano sa Poblacion.
Poblacion, yeah. Yeah, I frequently go to Poblacion, sa Giho for gigs. The farthest that I've been to was Route 196 at Katipunan.
Yeah, that's close to my place.
It's really far.
It's so funny because I'm from QC, but like I never go to the places in QC. I'm always in Poblacion. I think because that's where like the wild people are, the people like me who would like, go all out crazy with their dressing, who would like, just dance freely like when there's gigs playing. In QC, it's more of like it's more of like you're with your tropa and you just mind your tropa and you don't really go around and fly around like a social butterfly. I learned this the hard way because I just kept going to gigs in Poblacion. And then one of the bands that I liked was playing in QC. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna go by myself. I'm gonna make new friends. And then when I went there, oh my God, like everybody was just with their own barkada. And like I was like, is anybody gonna notice me? Hi, and then no. So it was so awkward. I was just like sitting by myself the whole night.
What I like about gig culture here in the Philippines, though, that even if you go alone, tendency is after the gig you have friends, ne? So it's a tight community. That's what I like about it compared to concerts like at Araneta, Cubao, mas intimate talaga eh. Mas iba yung gig culture sa Pilipinas.
Yeah.
That's what I like about it.
Yeah, watching a big concert is just like being in the MRT. There's like so many people, you don't even know them, and they're like interrupting you from like just having your space and your time. It's a great crowd. Like when everybody's screaming along and singing along to your artist, your favorite song from your artist. But like if that crowd was smaller, and if you guys knew each other and like we're talking while you're watching the artist, that's what's golden. That's what I love about like intimate gigs.
Same. Do you remember the first gig that you went to, and why did you go to that gig?
Yeah, the first gig that I went to was in 2018, so it was pretty recent because I'm an independent artist and I really have to work hard to support myself. So I spend most of my hours at work. But there was this one period in time that I had some free time, and the first gig that I went to was Poblacion, and it was during the arts festival there called Bloom Arts Festival. There were around 100 different artists that were commissioned to hang their artworks in different bars in Poblacion. And in those different bars, there would be a different musician playing, and everybody would walk from bar to bar. You would make new friends in one bar and go with them with the next bar. Then you'll make new friends, and then you're a bigger crowd. Then you're gonna go to the next bar. It was really beautiful, and I'm so happy that was my entry into the gig scene.
Yeah. Well, just to share my story, the first gig that I went to was back in 2011, 2012. I think this was a gig at B-Side. It's closed now. That saddens me the most kasi that's my first place that I went to for a gig. The B-Side in Makati. It's near Sagita.
Yeah.
And the first person that I seen live was Jensen Gomez. Like before Flips.
Jensen and the Flips.
Yeah, before Flips. Before Flips.
Wow.
He was a solo artist back then.
Wow.
First gig ko na nakita siya mag-isa. So, and when B-Side closed down, I was really sad kasi that place, I knew a lot of people from that na doon ko lang nakikita, na doon ko lang nakakasama. And after that, after the closure of B-Side, parang nawala yung community. I don't know where they are now. I don't know where gigs they go to na.
They're in Poblacion. Go to Poblacion.
I usually go to Poblacion.
Seriously, like they're still having Irie Sunday and all that. But they host it at different bars.
I'll try to go to Poblacion after COVID-19.
Yes, please.
Yeah, let's go together.
Yeah, let's have a gig and let's like, I'll perform for you guys and like have other performers in Poblacion, then catch Irie Sunday the next day. It's gonna happen.
Okay. Last question about gigs. If you're gonna convince someone about the gig culture and invite them over to their first gig, what will you say to that person to convince them to go with you?
You're gonna get lots of free beer from strangers.
That's the best thing.
Yeah, and like that just summarizes the entire experience of a gig. It's like you don't know each other, but there's a solidarity that happens there. And even though, like, strangers become friends in that small space because music unites people. It gives them a shared experience.
That's true. That's really true. Let's go back to the local music scenes. Sino yung artist na pinaka-favorite mo locally that you look up to with their artistry, visual imagery, songwriting, all of that?
Well, I really look up to Parokya ni Edgar. And like to some degree the Eraserheads. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this on air, but like I didn't listen to a lot of OPM before. Oh my god, I'm so ashamed. And like most of the local music that I listen to right now are the music of my friends. So like for me, like I love their music and I support them, but like we're all like pantay-pantay. We're like a rainbow, we all have different flavors and we like come together in the scene to create a beautiful cocktail of music. But like what I remember about Parokya ni Edgar was that they would have funny lyrics, like it would be bastos and it would also tell a story. And in their music videos, they would be in costumes as well. So that greatly influenced my aesthetic of like having a song as a story. And if you've listened to some of my songs, there are some cheeky lyrics here and there, and like some, it's definitely Parokya ni Edgar where I first learned how to be bastos.
What's your favorite
I'm
Parokya ni
working
Edgar
on
song?
Picha pa.
Yeah, I like that song as well. So parang their early works resonate with me the most than their 2000s era. So you also mentioned E-Heads. Have you watched ang huling El Bimbo the musical?
I have not, because I'm always like, if you're a performer, all of your work is during the nights and the weekends. So that was also the same time ang huling El Bimbo was playing and I never got to watch. And when it was live streaming on YouTube, I also had an online show, so I'm never able to watch, the things that I want to watch. But that's okay because I'm, there's also a solidarity in creating art while art is being created around you, and while I hear about it, I'm more inspired to like actually go out and meet those people one day, create art with those people one day. It's gonna happen. Yeah, what's great about being a performing artist is that you often get like first class seats or like the closest access to the performing arts because you're part of it.
Yeah. So let's dive in more about your history as a musician. When did you start singing or creating music? Kasi we haven't really talked about that so much.
Yeah. I started singing ever since, like from the nursery rhymes, like they would be like full-length performances in front of my family, my first ever performance was My Heart Will Go On when I was 4 years old. I sang that at my lola's big birthday event. It was like a hotel with like 100 plus people, and I sang it at 4 years old. And then after that, like I stopped singing for the longest time. Like I would sing from time to time if somebody would hear my voice at school and they're like, hey, you have a nice voice, you have to sing, huh? You have to sing the national anthem. But I wasn't very popular at school. Like I would get bullied a lot for being a freak like this, and like my family isn't too tolerant of performing arts. Like they were okay with it nung bata pa ako, but like when I started going to school, they're like, no, you will not mind this, you will only mind school. So like for the longest time I was silenced, and it was only when I started entering the art scene as a model and as a dancer that I sort of etched my way back to the music scene, like it was like a labyrinth. Like I didn't know where to get opportunities for music. So puro modeling, puro dance yung napunta sa akin. But everything is connected in the Manila arts industry. It's so small. So eventually I met musicians then, and I found a way to put out my music. So that's where I am right now.
So what was the moment? When was the moment that you realized that you really wanted to pursue music as a career? You know, kasi di ba dito sa Philippines sobrang hirap like kumita ng pera when it comes to music. That you have to have a day job or minsan 2 jobs just to fuel that passion. So, di ba, given that that circumstance, what made you like accept the fact that I want to be a musician, I want to pursue this?
It was never a decision that I made because that was my purpose in life ever since. I've loved music, you know, since nagkamalay ako, and that was always my end goal, to be doing music, and it was just a matter of finding a way to do that while surviving. So I used to have a day job, but I always kept in mind na I'm doing this to make money, and every chance I get free time or an opportunity to do like professional artwork, I'm gonna take it. And I kept taking those opportunities until I became a full-time artist na.
But I think I'm wishing you well, because there are not a lot of people like you who will pursue this despite the circumstances. Because I know a lot of people who would pursue it, pero 1 year in, 2 years in, they would back out na eh. Kasi nga, it's so difficult. I know a lot of, I have friends na din who gave up na lang talaga just because they weren't supported by the people around them. And I'm really happy to know that you have friends who support you and who are musicians as well. Kasi diba, if you have friends who buy your music or go to your shows or pay for you to perform, that really means a lot eh. Especially for starting musicians.
Yeah, it really does.
So what is your message to a person who would want to explore more sa indie scene sa Pilipinas?
Well, it's not a scene that will baby you, and you may have people who will support you, you may have people who will help you, but the stark reality of it is that it's really alanganin that you will be able to make money from it, or you would be able to gain a big following from it straight away. So the only way you can get drive is really just from your own self. Like I had to invest so much, and I had to like give up, so many things in my life just so I could fund my music career and work on having events and work on launching an EP, managing my own music, publicizing my own music. It was really like a one-woman show, and their friends are always there for support, and friends will always help you with connections or assist you, but it's something that has not been given the kind of respect or the kind of support that it deserves in this country, or even in the world. So for you to create something so whole that you can put out in the world, it really has to be an all-in effort. It's a really big risk, and if you love it, that's naturally what you're gonna do.
Just like with me, when I host events with gigs, when I do radio, I don't really get paid so much, but I really love doing it. So sometimes when I doubt about making money or making ends meet with it, I usually remind myself why I started to pursue it. I think reminding yourself about kung bakit mo sinimulan or bakit mo ginusto yan to begin with would actually push you even more to be better, to influence other people. Because that's really the game, right? It's more about inspiring other people. It's not really about the money. But I can really see that.
It's about being guided by your own purpose, and when people see you, you're an example for them to move by their own purpose as well, whatever that may be.
Okay. So, can you share naman the music that inspires you the most as a musician?
The Beatles.
Why?
Because they wrote such, a massive, repertoire of songs about everything. They wrote about submarines. They wrote about a doctor. They wrote about health. It's like the entire world can be found in the music of the Beatles, and I love how they captured life that way. So for me, music is about like passing on the culture that I've seen and like sharing a slice of what it is to be alive and to be human.
That's what I like about music as well. When you listen to music from the 60s or 70s, you get a glimpse of how life used to be back then. So I'm really happy that recently we have been exposed to a lot of music. So very recently, parang madami na musicians na more on lyrically, like you're proud to have to say na I have lived to see them, or I have lived a good life to to listen to their music. So speaking of modern music naman, sino yung artists in modern times that you really look up to and just inspires you as a musician?
I hardly listen to any new music. Like the oldest song in my Spotify was like 2000.
I think that's...
Like everything talaga is from the 20th century sa sa library ko.
So ako naman kasi I the first time I've listened to music was when my mom used to we had a cassette when I was younger, so usually she played a lot of R&B, a lot of soul music, so yun yung kinalakihan ko. So right now then the lack of R&B and soul music saddens me kasi right now we're more focused on pop music, folk. So far I think I'm still looking for yung gratification of having an artist from our generation to sort of like exemplify the music I grew up with, and parang wala pa so far right now parang I don't know, I'm not sure. So anyway, okay, if there's one thing about music that you dislike, about the industry that you dislike, ano yun and why?
It's about I dislike the exploitation of artists in the industry. It really is a pop machine, the music industry, where there are people on top who profit like in gigantic amounts, and so many people at the bottom whose names aren't even heard. The roadies, the PAs, every person wearing black behind the scenes in the concerts and the gigs. Do you even know their names? But they're the ones making it happen. Do they even get paid? They don't. All you know are the big names of the labels or the big names of the concert organizers. So there's something incredibly wrong with a system that filters all of the money upwards, while the people, the many levels of people down there, it just trickles, like only pennies trickle down to them. So that's something I really think needs to change, especially because we're in this pandemic and the income of musicians has been slashed because they can only make it through live performances, and live streaming for now is I don't think a viable source of income yet, because everybody can get free entertainment online. So it's really a riddle for us musicians to figure out how else we can make money besides live performances. And it's like it's really like a push to the people in the industry. If you want to have any artists left after this pandemic, you better change your systems.
That's what I keep on telling my friends, that bored ka, you have money, donate to artists, donate to causes that support artists. Kasi aside from artists, filmmakers, music, actually karamihan ng affected na neglect sa pandemic is artists talaga. Usually we think of yung mga jeepney drivers, tricycle drivers, mga
but they're subsidized. Yes, that's the difference. Like they get cash from the government, but us artists, we don't fall into any of those government constructs. So who takes care of us?
I think it's about time that we have an association wherein we take care of artists, kasi sila talaga yung nagbibigay ng bilog kumbaga sa country and sa people natin, to inspire them to move forward, especially in times like this.
Yes, artists like are essential in our society. Like they can be framed as like pang ganda-ganda lang yan, or it's just like for a luxury or for entertainment. But in fact, it's us artists who are passing on the culture of our people, and it's not, it's not a basta job lang, it's a duty for us. So like if we have art that we're creating or thinking of, it's our duty to share it.
And last point about artists, I think yung work natin as artists, you as a musician, me as a host or a visual artist, yun yung pinaka na nagtatranspire through generations eh. Sila yung mas nagiging, what do you call that? Sila yung mas nagsistay permanently.
Yeah, I mean, like if you think about like, an era in time, the 60s, 70s, what's the first person you think of? It's an artist, because it's the artists that embody the culture of the times and of like, of society.
Yeah, I think it's about time that we change the perception of people about musicians, about artists, about filmmakers, about our industry. Kasi it's really, there will come a point talaga na people will stop making art. And that, dun ako natatakot. When
it's already starting. I mean, like, look at the art that people are making nowadays. Is it as meaningful or as like complex or meticulous as the art that you've seen before? Like, there's been a dwindle in the quality, especially because like everybody has access to these tools that they can make art with, but it's not like, if you haven't thought about it, if you haven't paid your dues, like really immersed yourself in like what you mean, what you want to create or share with the world, it's not gonna have that, that meaning that makes it like essential to society.
I'm really happy to have this discussion with you kasi, from your perspective as an indie musician, I haven't really had this conversation with someone who's in the field, who's experiencing it firsthand. So before nga, when I mentioned earlier that Unplugged is more on Mapuan artists, that's why I did the show to begin with, to give a platform for starting musicians, because we have such an amazing platform for them to give them a boost, and for more audiences to appreciate music and to realize that we need them. We need people like you. We need people like
thank you
to make this world a better place. just to go to song. Anyway, before we end this interview, last message to your listeners, to tell them more about how to convince them to support our industry.
Well,